listening to Wake Up Hollywood with Nikhil Korula and Eddie Pence, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Wake up, Hollywood. This is your host for the most, Nikhil Korula. We're going to jump right into this interview. We have neoclassical composer turned pop producer, Michael Kim Shang. Did I say that correctly?
That's absolutely perfect.
Are you Korean by chance?
I'm half Korean, half Chinese.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I live in Koreatown, so I'm a huge fan of Korean barbecue, and I also love Chinese food, so you're the best of both worlds, bro.
Awesome. I'm glad you enjoy our cuisines.
And you know what? I saw that you went to Flint Ridge Prep. I'm from Arcadia, so we're in the same hood, man.
Yeah, I'm from La Crescenta, but my dad he currently lives in Arcadia, so.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I love that you were way into composing and classical influences. I love Debussy. I actually studied opera at USC Thornton School of Music, so my whole background has been in classical music, and now I also do pop tunes and funk and rock and all of that. So I love that we have these parallel backgrounds. Tell me what got you into music. How did you start with classical music? What were the influences? Did you start with piano?
Yeah, well, my mom was a piano teacher, so I was on the piano when I was probably walking at the same time.
Wow.
But I did this thing where my mom would put my hands on the keyboard and I just like slip it off. Like I wouldn't play anything. So she gave up and she tried again a year later. So I was 4. And I just remember like not understanding anything and just like playing stuff by ear. So I think I developed like a pretty good ear through that. But like my intellectual like capabilities were pretty far behind. So I guess I'm just saying I'm slow, but can hear things. So
well, I feel like when it comes to musicians, our ears are always much farther ahead of us than sometimes our motor skills and even like what we're thinking about as far as like writing. So that makes sense. I mean, when you're a kid learning piano, I mean, that's first of all super overwhelming. I started playing piano when I was 5, and I just remember like it being a little overwhelming, but like I also, I wish I had the same memory skills that I did when I was 5 and 7 and 9, because memorizing an etude or a minuet was so easy and it just kind of felt so natural. But like now I'm like, oh my God, I can't remember that stuff. It's so crazy. So did you start with Bach? Did you start with Mozart? Like those are some of my favorite composers. That's why I ask.
Mozart. I played some Bach, but definitely Mozart. I know like Czerny was the big one. I really didn't like Czerny just because it was so tasking, like intellectually, for a 4-year-old to like coordinate different lines and stuff like that.
Right.
But it was a good way to learn, I guess. Mozart was fun. It feels good to play. I mean, it's well written for the hands, and it's just bouncy and fun and catchy.
It's playful. That's what I love. It's like all the melodies are super playful, and even like what's going on in the left hand, it's like the beginning of counterpoint in a lot of ways.
Right.
It's kind of like the foreshadowing. So Mozart's my dude. I feel like he was the first rock star, that ever lived, and I feel like Bach was the first pop composer because all these old minuets that Bach would write, they're so catchy and they're so good and simple. And I feel like a lot of classical music theory is based on what he wrote and what worked,
Totally. Yeah, Bach's the man,
I love that you love Debussy. He's one of my favorites. What were do you know Claire de Lune? What were some of the pieces that you would start listening to or playing to that you gravitated towards?
Well, it's it's more like the sound worlds, like I played a lot of Debussy growing up, but I my mom pulled up like old scores of Debussy, and I wrote things like "This is torture" and like "This is," like there's like these markings, scribble markings. Like I was 8, and then so like I but as I got older, like I started writing music, and I found like some similarities in textures, and of course, like I'm not Debussy, like I'm just inspired. But I remember going back to scores and just seeing like, oh my god, I'm taking this technique, I'm taking that technique, and you know the way the score looks, there's some similarities. But I mean, you know I just love the way he uses color and texture, and you know I don't think I enjoyed playing Debussy as much as I did like listening to some of his orchestral works. Or you know I loved actually Ravel a lot, Ravel's piano works.
Yep.
um and I think just huge inspirations, just seeing that too come up.
What I love about Debussy, it's like the romantic period is like so lush. It's
Mhm.
like such beautiful writing, it's like such passionate music that I feel like almost mimics the way, Baroque stuff was born. So it's actually like kind of my favorite period. I love Brahms, I love Fauré, I love Debussy. And the crazy thing is like when I was in music school studying music history, I didn't realize that Fauré and Debussy, you don't think about them in the same time periods, but not only that, they were like such good friends. And they would all hang together and go to the same parlors and like just, you know, be into the same styles of music and kind of drawing from like what was then jazz and also kind of like the primal elements of that. So I just love that it was all taking place during the same period around the same places in Europe, and there was like this renaissance of just beauty and passion. So whenever somebody lists a composer like Debussy, I'm like, oh man, we're gonna get along great. Just because he made it as beautiful as it can be. He
Right.
made this as lush as they could be. And there's so much of that missing after that time period. So,
Right.
and you also mentioned Chopin. Chopin was a huge influence, correct?
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, I played a lot of Chopin. That's just I played a lot of Chopin. My mom's a piano teacher, so I heard a lot of Chopin, and it's just sense a little bit of just like kind of the melodic figures in like carry from his music into my music. Of course, um, I haven't like sat down and really like pinpoint exactly, but these are just kind of like music that's been playing in my house over and over since I
That's
was
awesome.
a kid.
Yeah, that's awesome because it like puts melodies or kind of part writing in your head without you even knowing it. Who was your mom's favorite composer that she loved to play the most?
Probably, well, she loves Rachmaninoff.
That was who I was actually like thinking that she was gonna say that you were gonna say that because with all the composers you listed, I was like, I bet she loves Rachmaninoff because that's a piano player's like composer. You know what I mean? It's like the way Rachmaninoff composes. I'm like, oh, he composes for players. So
Mhm.
I can tell your mom probably loves that just because of what she was bringing you up with. Um,
Totally.
did she get into like neoclassical composers or like film composers, or is she kind of like a purist when it comes to any of the Romantic period or Baroque period?
Well, yeah, she's more of I don't know. I'd say that I introduced her to probably the neoclassicism in music. I think, well, I introduced her to like Radiohead and stuff like that later
That's
on.
awesome.
Yeah, and she was like really into it. She's a Korean dancer as well, and she like did a dance to one of the Radiohead songs from In Rainbows called Nude. It was a really
Yeah,
good
I
song.
love that record. I
Yeah.
love that record. I actually did. I recorded in the studio that they did that record. No, actually, it was Hail to the Thief. I'm sorry, Hail to the Thief. So
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great that's an album that slept on, I think.
yeah,
Like,
yep. I love that record, and a friend of mine actually mixed and recorded that record. So
wow.
uh,
That's an amazing experience to have.
And he says like it was such an incredible experience because they were just so hyper creative. They're just hyper creative musicians. And they also love classical music. And I love this reverence for what has come before us because it helps us look forward in kind of like navigating what's great that is around us, you know?
Mhm.
So where was the pivot for you? Was it in high school? Was it in college? Was it, after where it's like you made the pivot from wanting to be, a composer in that realm to doing something different?
Oh, I mean, um, high school was my first introduction to electronic music or rock music. Of course, Radiohead, Aphex Twin. I got my first DAW when I was 15, so that's a way to sequence and record music and make electronic music. So um, I started exploring with that. I made my first beats when I was 15, and then
Wow.
and then I actually got rejected from a jazz program at Berkeley from guitar. I think like I didn't like complete the application, and I was like a little bit unprepared with certain things. So it kind of threw me off. I was like, okay, what am I doing? And then I thought, okay, the ultimate musician, as an 18-year-old thinks, the ultimate musician is, a classical composer. And of course, I went through classical training and I learned that, that's not true. It's just a genre of music. It's a style of writing, just like any other style of writing was. And then I went through my master's program. I discovered that I liked pretty music,
Right.
and not writing like exploring like processes or whatever sort of academic music. I was just not into that. And then um, I wrote my album called Heavy Moon, which I sent to you. It's like 15 minutes, and it's music for chamber ensemble with four sopranos, five string players, and piano.
Wow.
And I just kind of went, really into. I really looked in and really discovered an aesthetic of just like what would, you know, what do I really want to make? What's really calling me right now? And it's kind of neoclassical, neo-romantic music. And then when I finished that, um, I heard I was I I decided to make pop music with my wife. So that was a long process within itself. When we started dating, I heard her sing um, Thriller at a karaoke bar, and
Wow.
we just like out of nowhere, she just like belted out the chorus, and I was like, okay. And we just had this whole process of developing our confidence and developing skills, and then like once I was done with that album, it was just like go time, and I've been full into pop for the past 2 years, just like you know and the pop world is so different. It's we have
What specifically in pop? Because I love that you mentioned Michael Jackson, but are you listening to current pop or like DJs EDM? Like what is pop for you? Because it's such a wide net.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going with like more mainstream modern pop, not like um with we do say there's like a classical influence, of course, because as the producer who's classically trained, there's going to be classical influence. So we write with strings in it and some piano, but it's like our inspirations are kind of like Melanie Martinez, Ariana Grande, Billie Eilish, those kinds of pop artists. So Elena has a very like delicate voice, and we kind of um she kind of like is on this like pillar of sound that I create that's like full of arpeggiators, drums, and synthesizers and
That's cool.
large bass sounds, the good stuff.
And what do you use for your DAW now? And for our listeners that don't know what a DAW is, it's basically recording software. Pro Tools, Logic, there's just so many. Ableton. What do you use mostly to compose now?
I use Logic Pro. So I've been using Logic Pro since I was 15. So that's just like I I mean, I feel like I've only kind of scratched the surface of it because I do what I need to do and I get out. But yeah, it's just what I use, what I'm comfortable with.
It's actually what I use at home. When I make a record, most of the times I make it on Pro Tools. But when I do like stuff at home, I use Logic because I think it's so much easier and better. I think it's the best.
Mm,
But studios still use Pro Tools. It's still kind of like industry
yeah.
standard in a lot of ways. But I love Logic. But have you ever used analog tape?
No, but maybe someday.
You should do something with analog tape because I'll tell you that process. I did a couple records on analog tape, and it taught me how to do a lot more with less, and like figuring out like how not to be indulgent, make choices. So it was kind of cool to use that medium just to do like try to figure out how to do less. Because the one thing about Pro Tools and Logic, it gives you infinite possibilities. You can have like a million tracks, you know what I mean? Whereas on analog, you get 24, on one
Mm,
reel of tape. So it's just like it's crazy to think about like music on that
right,
level, but it ends up, make it forces you to be creative and make choices.
right.
Like using other DAWs. I've noticed with when I compose something, I'll put 20 parts on something, and I don't do that in the same way now. I try to like kind of minimize because of that process. So
Mm,
I think it's a healthy way to just think about music in a different way, but it's also inconvenience and convenient in a lot of ways.
yeah,
This is how all the processes are.
yeah. That's
Um,
interesting.
so when you're kind of like starting with a composition or a beat or a groove, what do you start with? Do you start with something on the beat or drum level, or do you start with a bass line? Do you start because I saw that you play guitar, you play drums, you play keys, and I'm sure that helps you kind of like think about arrangements. But what do you start with?
Um, that's a question I've been asking myself lately, actually, because it's different every time. Every song's different. I think I think there are ways to getting to a place where you get to see the song, like, oh, this is what the song's going to be like, and it's going to go to this section. Like, there's a whole process that takes to get there, and it's just so messy. And I usually usually I lay down like a couple chords, um and a lot of the times it's about finding the right sound, and sometimes it's about finding the right chords. It's different, for me personally, every time. And I'd say that that's kind of the question I'm trying to nail in, like, what's my process like, so I can, because I need to produce more, I think, volume in some ways. And I'm trying to kind of put a process to it, but at the same time I don't want to like dampen it and like take
Right.
away the spontaneity of it. But yeah, it's just that's the golden question, I think, for most people. Like, it's just it's different for everybody. Um
I
and
think ideally for me, I love to start with a riff, but I mean, there's so many times I start with drums. Just I feel like when I'm looking at a session and I'm starting, I'm like, let me get a groove so I can play something to that groove. But my favorite songs are when I come up with a riff and then I put the groove to that riff because it's like driving the song on some level. But I'm always looking to like figure out the process and like
Mhm.
figure out the path and this is why I love interviewing artists because it's like understanding other people's creative process helps you understand your own
Yeah, like,
like
yeah, I'd like your conviction. I need that in my life. I wish I could say, hey, when I lay down keys, I know what to do. But it's I I don't know. I feel like if I look back and try to find habits and like, oh, I did this before and this will work again, I go into like creative shock where I'm like, okay, it's not working, then what's wrong? So I'll have like thousands of 10-second songs, and then you know but that's the same thing with, I have like thousands of two measure pieces that are just lying around doing nothing. So
they just sit on our phones or on our hard drives. It's like
yeah.
I'm constantly like trying to like find all of those as much
Hmm.
as possible because it's like you don't know like how inspiration was striking you in that moment, and it's like
Exactly.
you could think it's nothing, and then years later you're like, wait a minute, this is actually super cool. So
Right.
like I'm trying to always find better ways to document all of that stuff, or get
Mhm.
to the ideas. But that's kind of how creativity works. It's kind of like it's almost flagrant. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna run with this idea for now because it feels good. And I think that's what makes us artists. It's like we're not going to be able to judge something until it's fully realized, but at the same time, we're so critical that even if we have a great stroke of brilliance in 2 bars, it never feels like it's a stroke of genius in that amount of time. So
Mhm.
I love that you have 10,000 unfinished songs, but that means maybe you need to develop some of them. I was just doing a rehearsal earlier, and my guitarist was like, "Yeah, man, this riff, you could write a whole tune out of this riff, and nobody's gonna know because it's only a 2 bar phrase in this one part of the song." I was like, "Yeah, that's so interesting. I didn't think about
Mm.
that." So you just never know. But let's play something. What do you want to play us first?
I mean, what would you
We
want?
have Given to Me, Can't Be Your Friend, Lake, and All in My Head.
We could do like first. That's my classical stuff, and then we can do all in my head after. That's the stuff with Elena, and Elena's available if you'd like for her to come and
Yeah.
speak after that.
Let's have her come. I'm going to play Lake, and then we'll ask her some questions too.
Cool. Lake is my classical stuff, to clarify.
All right. Here's Lake by Michael Kim Shang. That was beautiful, man. That was really, really beautiful.
Oh,
Bravo.
thank you.
I definitely hear some Eastern European influence in some of those themes, man. It's very, very cool. Very,
Oh,
very
thank you.
yeah, really beautiful. So, did they perform it live, or did you record it and then have them shoot it?
We recorded it and then had them shoot
Let's
it.
say that had to be crazy to do that live because
Yeah.
I'm actually doing a bunch of video sessions right now, and so I was curious because I'm in the middle of doing all those right now, and it's so crazy, but it's also exciting, but it's also
Mm.
nerve-wracking to have everything live, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely doable. I think like it's just a different process. Definitely like the way they're set up was like in a row. They're like in front of each other, but it's like a string quintet. So is it what they call that? But
Well,
so
there's a quartet. It's a quartet, right? Because I think there's four.
yeah,
But,
quartet with the piano.
piano, right? That's right. That's right. So did you like? How did you come up? Did you start with the piano for that, and then kind of work backwards, or did you? Kind of,
So I was just out of university and I reached out to a bunch of film companies and was like, "Hey, this is my portfolio. I'm willing to work." And this guy called me, and he said that he is a filmmaker and he has lots of documentaries behind him. And he's like, "Hey, I need a theme for my romantic, for my love story." I said, "Sure." Like this was amazing. I was like super excited. And then he sent me the script, and the script was like about this love these lovers going to a lake house. And I don't know if I can disclose anything about it, but it was 5 years ago, and um, the movie never got made. But I wrote the theme for it, and I had been sending him things. So I started with the piano. So the piano solo at the end was how I started the piece, and then I had it as a viola solo per the request of the director. He wanted to start it with a solo, so I started with the viola solo, which I thought was cool. Well, actually, I thought it was boring. I was like, I don't want this, but playing it just now, I haven't listened to this piece for like a few years now, but having it start with the viola solo was pretty cool.
oh yeah, it was great. Great call.
So that's not my decision at all. And the piano solo ending it was not my decision either. But so I just built everything between. And I remember I was playing like Zelda Breath of the Wild at the time, and I was just like, playing it while fixing. I remember I spent like 3 days fixing like 2 bars and just playing Breath of the Wild. It was a great time, great process, like really fun.
Yeah, great part writing, great
Oh, thanks.
harmonies, like that. Everything was great. The piano added such a great dimension too, because it's just
Mm.
like it like cuts through everything and just kind of like makes it kind of solemn in moments where it needs it. So just really, really well done, man. I love
Oh,
it.
thank you so much. I
I
really,
love, you know what? Like I love neoclassical music because there's nothing like those old composers, and you're doing something that's mirroring a lot of what they are doing, but it's also
mm.
new. It's new themes, new orchestrations. So yeah, it was great. So tell me that now you pivoted into classical music. I mean, the pop music. Do you find there's a parallel between how classical music is composed versus how you build a pop song?
um, there's some similarities, of course, of course, like layering and voicing, like not making sounds clash, and um, but like you said with the tape machine, right? Like you have when you write for instruments, you are so limited to the range and the register of the instrument and the player. But with pop, you can do whatever you want. So like you can put in 10 million tracks and it can sound just like terrible, but nobody's stopping you from sounding terrible. Like, you know, so if you want to sound good, like you have to discover the whole medium separately. So I had to rediscover writing for pop music, of course, like how synths work and stuff like that. I just play around with it. I still don't know what I'm doing, but
Well, a lot of
I
it's experimentation too.
right.
It's a lot of it's like finding new sounds or layering sounds or like finding a new kind of way to make people feel music. Whether
Mhm.
it's like, the weird thing is when Adele came out, I actually played a festival and Adele was on the bill and nobody knew who she was. And a friend of mine was like, "Hey man, you need to go check out this girl Adele. She's about to blow up." And I was like, "Cool." And I went and saw her, and I was like, "Wow, she's really great." You know, and then I saw her open solo with for John Mayer, and I was like, "Wow, this is really great." It was just her and an acoustic guitar, and she had a guitarist, and she was just singing her ass off the whole time.
Wow.
And then her single came out, and I was like, "Man, this is blowing up like so crazy." And a lot of it was because it didn't sound like anything else. You know, it had no drums, it had no bass, it had no synth sounds. It was just a voice and a piano, and nothing was out at that time that sounded like that. And it hit because of it just sounding new and different. So part of pop music is like finding that sound. Let's play something. Let's play All in My Head. And this is a pop tune. Why don't you set this up? Like, tell us the inspiration behind it.
Well, this one is it was written for my wife and with her as well. So a lot of it's inspired by her story, you know, what she has told me as a wife and a partner. So a lot of that care and that understanding came through in the musical writing and in the lyrical writing that and so it was our first song we wrote together. So it was so interesting because I didn't even know the process, and it was Elena's first time recording a song, so we were both going into it blind. And so we just said, hey, you know what, let's just light some candles and let's just have fun with it. And we just started improvising and adding layers into layers, and it was one of those songs where you finish one section, you go, okay, now I need to do this, and now I need to go here, and now I need to do that, and it just felt very, very natural. And for me, it was just like,
that's awesome.
Curating each sound, you know, like, okay, we need like a hoo, hoo, hoo here, so I had to like go in and search for the hoo, hoo, hoo sound, and then I need like, oh, we need this sound here, and then I just had to go search. So it was a long process, but really beautiful process. And I this is our favorite song. This is my favorite song of hers that's out, and I think Elena as well. And I'm sorry, Elena's her meeting is going a lot longer, so she's
okay. No worries. So is All in My Head, is it Elena as the artist? Is that
yes?
All right, so here's All in My Head by Elena.
I eat by myself, I like it that way. I'm all by myself, I fill up the room with the weight of my soul. Nobody sees me and nobody cares. Nobody helps me, and that is okay. I talk to myself all through the night. It's all in my head, awake in my bed. Ooh, I let the moon in, it knows me like nobody else. So far away yet so close and serene, shines a soft light on me, holding me still. I show you my world, it's fractures and scars, the pieces that make me the shards all around. I've been away too long, awake with a trembling heart. I feel alive, its rhythms are speaking to me. drink by myself, to movies that nobody knows. I laugh to myself. I fill up the room with the weight of my soul. Nobody sees me and nobody cares. Nobody helps me, and that is okay. I talk to myself all through the night. It's all in my head, awake in my bed. I let the moon in. It knows me like nobody else. So far away, yet so close into reach. Shines a soft light on me, holding me still. I show you my world. It's fractures in the sky. The pieces that make me the stars all around. I've been away too long, awake with a trembling heart. I feel alive. Its rhythms are speaking to me. Je m'endors, je rêve et je pars, je rêve et je fuis. Je m'endors, ferme les yeux, comment ira mieux. Je m'endors, je rêve et je pars, je rêve et je fuis. Je m'endors, ferme les yeux, comment ira mieux.
That was awesome. Very cool. It's got like pop elements. It's got some like almost adult contemporary kind of, anthems and really beautiful part writing and also songwriting and arrangement. I love that you incorporated the strings with all these pop elements. Tell me how you wanted to infuse that with some of the pop elements that you were doing.
How did I want to infuse the classical elements?
Yeah.
Well, obviously, I feel much more comfortable with the classical elements and the instrumentation. So I wanted to incorporate something that I knew would sound beautiful in such a song, and it just worked. I think it just came up naturally. And so we have other songs that I didn't add any instrumentation, like any classical instruments in, because it just didn't come naturally. Like, I didn't try to make it a thing, but this one just came, like it needed it. It needed the strings, and I just put it in where it fit. So,
well, it added like the right dynamic kind of influence to kind of elevate the song at that right moment. So it was really cool. I wasn't expecting that. You never expect strings in a pop tune, so it's like when you hear it, it's like so refreshing. And I love hearing strings in pop tunes because it's just it's like marrying, and I know why you did it, because it's like marrying your two loves. It's like pop music is what's so great about it. It's so current, and it's like, so people think it's easy to write a pop tune. I challenge people all the time, like, write me a pop hit. It's just the hardest, I think.
That's so true.
You know what I mean? It's like most people think it's easier than it is, and it's probably the hardest of them all.
They all say that. They're like, pop's easy, and I'm like, okay. And I mean, I thought that too. I totally thought that too. I was like, oh, I could write pop songs, and it's like, oh, it's really hard because you need to really, like, we have 6 songs out, and I feel like I'm not really getting to it. Like with the classical stuff, you can get into it. I can get into it. I have experience with it. With the pop, I'm like, I'm digging, like I'm getting to it, and I feel like I'm getting close. And this song really captured that. I feel like I put a lot of soul into this song, and this was Elena's first recording, and she put so much into it too. And it was just a huge effort from both of us, and so
it's exciting to see when it's finished. And You know, like the cool thing is that you did this cool video with all these cool visuals and a cool story. It had to be cool to see it all come to life and be like this full realized, you know, song, anthem, and story. Tell me what was the inspiration behind the video?
Well, we reached out to a director friend, and she came up with the concept of sort of like being in a sort of mundane world and imagining being in somewhere magical, kind of a, you know. And I think it's that like between the two worlds of the person washing the dishes um and the person in the beautiful dress and the beautiful gown in this fairyland. And what was funny was that when we were in filming in the fairyland, it was like super cold and uh, super dark, and we're in the middle of the woods. We're like, let's get out of here. And when we're in the restaurant, we're like, oh, this is great, like warmth and comfort. So, but yeah, it's just that, like, I think the director Kay was inspired by the fact that Elena also came from the food industry. I mean, we were both working in the food industry in Montreal. I was a dishwasher and she was a waitress. So I think that also inspired her to choose that
Right.
scenario. So,
And she had both of you in that story with her washing the dishes at the very beginning, which is cool.
I think that was coincidental, but I didn't, I didn't advertise my dishwashing skills. I did coach her a little bit. I was like, hey, you gotta scrub it like this, but I was just kidding around.
You're like, you don't wash dishes and it shows. No, I'm just
right. This is how you do it, and the water's splashing everywhere and everyone's getting wet.
That's awesome. Did you have a direction when you were kind of first composing the song, or did you kind of write the melody and then it just started kind of evolving as you were recording it?
What was funny is that we literally lit candles. We turned off the light and we lit candles, and like, let's just try whatever. And I wrote the keyboard part, and then I sang the little vocal line like ooh in the background. And I just said, all right, let's just go. And she started muttering some, gibberish over like melodies over it, and we kind of pieced it together. And then we just started writing words together, and the first word that came up was like, I eat by myself. It's kind of a funny way to start a song, but like eating is something you do with people, and or not. I ate alone a lot too, but there was like a sadness to it that I felt like would bring the listener in, and we stuck to it, and just
Isn't it funny how like sometimes a phrase like that can strike you and you wouldn't think about it the same way if you just said it, but when it comes out in a song or a melody, it hits you in a different way. I think that's one of the most tremendous powers of words, that you can
totally.
You can say those words in a conversation, it won't mean the same, and then you can sing them, and all of a sudden it has meaning. It puts you in a place. It gives you a picture. It creates the beginning of a movie in your mind. I love those kind of phrases. So I see how you totally were bringing the listener in just by, inviting them to get a glimpse of the story, So it's really, really happening. I love it. I love your music. This is great. What do you want to play us next?
Well, you can play another song. I'm not sure.
So we have Given to Me and Can't Be Your Friend.
We could do Can't Be Your Friend. That's a pretty interesting video. So
tell us a little bit about it.
This was a funny song where the lyrics are very vague, but in a way that it could mean two things. And at the time, we were recording this song in Joshua Tree, and my mom was very like part of the recording process. Like we call her master comper, because she comps the vocal. She's like, this word's really good. So we were like talking about recording this song, and then like my mom and I and the director and Elena had like two different ideas of what the song meant, but they both like word for word fit. So the song is basically like, I can no longer be with you. I cannot be in a relationship with you because either she's being treated badly, or or she's just not in a good place in this relationship. Or it could be, I can't be your friend. Like, I like you or I love you so much that I cannot afford to just be a friend to you. Like, I want to be more. And so it was funny because it has those meanings and in the lyrics, and it makes sense with both in both ways. So,
and is this Elena's song as well, or is this?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's "Can't Be Your Friend" by Elena.
Something in between us, saying all the things that a friend would say, but it still feels wrong. There's something in your eyes, something in the way that you speak to me. What is in your heart? You seek something else. I'm here for you, but you pull away. I can't be your friend. I've been waiting for you far too long. I can see how you feel inside. I can't be your friend. You've been saying things that can't be right. All these lies coming through. You have a feeling that you can't keep down. And every word you say, your eyes will never lie. I can see right through you. There's something in your heart, something in the way that you speak to me, but it still feels wrong. What is in your heart? You seek something else. I'm here for you, but you pull away. I can't be your friend. I've been waiting for you far too long. I can see how you feel inside. I can't be your friend. I've been waiting for you far too long. I can see how you feel inside. I can't be your friend. You've been saying things that can't be right. All these lies coming through. You have a feeling that you can't keep down. You have a feeling that you can't keep down. You have a feeling that you can't keep down.
Slamming, man.
Thank
You guys are like a dynamic duo, bro.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah.
No, it's I love when something's fully realized. I love when something's creative. It's got really great pop sensibility. It's got great arrangements, beautiful vocals. I love like all the ethereal. You feel music kind of like the way I do. I love things that make you feel music in layers, you know, because I like hearing that thing in the back that's like, oh, what's going on? But I like hearing all the things up front too, and how it kind of like, you know, you need all of it to make this perfectly well-rounded sound that makes you ingest the story, you know? So I love that you're thinking in that way, and hope you continue to do so. Where can people find you if they want to find your music, if they want to find Elena, if they want to book you guys for a show? Are you guys playing live or anything like that?
Yeah, Elena is doing a show with Breaking Sound on December 12th at Adults Only, and she's doing a show at Republic of Pies with Kevin Rogers.
He's actually doing my song. I do a songwriter in the round. I'll have to book you guys.
Oh, that's with
So I host that every month, and I've been playing Hotel Cafe for years and years and years.
Oh, then we should come by.
Totally come by. You'll love it too. It's we do 3 original songs, and then the last round, everybody plays a song they wish they wrote. And it's all songwriters, and it's usually 2 male songwriters, 2 female songwriters, and everybody's in different styles. Like I kind of cultivate the nights where it's like really songwriter driven, but also like stylistically driven too. So everybody kind of has a different, you know, style of music to kind of embrace. So yeah, you'll love it. You'll really dig it. It's definitely a musician. There's a lot of songwriters in the audience, and it's all music lovers.
Oh,
so
that's awesome. Yeah, I'll get the details from you after.
Please. And Kev, you know, I was asking Kevin, I'm like, man, are you busy right now? And he's like, no, but you know, he's like, I am, but I got somebody. And then you texted right away, so it's so perfect, dude.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna have you on again. So like the reason I started this radio show was, you know, I want to showcase new talent and seasoned talent and people and showcase their stories. So like I'll follow up and have you guys back again in 9 or 10 months whenever you have something to showcase. Yeah. That's what this format's for. So thank you for being a guest on Wake Up Hollywood, bro.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This was lots of fun. It was so last minute, but you know, I'm glad I did it. It's like super fun to just get around.
Sometimes you gotta jump in, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. I love that you had everything ready. I mean, that's a lot of it. It's like you had the bio and all the tracks ready. So it's like it was great. I mean, this was awesome. So once again, where can people find you if they want to find your music?
Well, my name Michael Kim Shang on Spotify and Instagram. Elena Pamela, she also just blew up on TikTok yesterday. So awesome. You can find her on her TikTok. Elena Pamela, everything's our names. So we'll just search that in TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, and we'll come up. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, you know what? I'll have you guys on again. Your music's amazing. I hope you continue to make music together. And you have a wonderful story and a great, great positive outlook and dynamic range in your musical compositional skills. So keep it up. On behalf of Michael, myself, and Sam, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in, and peace and love to everybody out there. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Good night.
You're listening to Wake Up Hollywood with Nikhil Korula and Eddie Pence, right here on LA Talk Radio.